Hello everyone, check this out. This is the view from my apartment window. It's what I wake up to every morning. This is what I look at when I drink my morning coffee. All those vineyards up there on the hill in the Alps. The snow's starting to disappear up on the top of that mountain. You still see it down there. This is Chiavenna. It's a little city just on the edge of, right up on the very top of Italy. Very, very close to Switzerland. In fact, Switzerland is just through that gap there. Keep going for about 20 minutes, I think. So that's where I'm staying at the moment. G'day everyone. I want to talk about the word fluency again today. I've talked about it before on my blog many times. I've made a video about it, and I'm probably repeating myself today, but I think it's an important point, and it's worth continually bringing back into the discussion. People think of fluency as being the top of the mountain, and this is a really important analogy, so pay attention for a second. People think of fluency as being the top of the mountain, that the end point, the finishing line. So you're climbing up, and one day you hit that top of the mountain, and it's like, yes, today I'm fluent in German. Today I'm fluent in Italian. I've reached that point. It's a wrong analogy. It's a wrong analogy. Fluency is one of the most misused, misunderstood words. I hate the way it's misused. I want you to, instead of thinking of fluency as being the top of the mountain, think of fluency as being the path to the top. Okay, the path to the top. And the top is, let's say the top is being like a native speaker. Okay, so the path to that point, which by the way, you'll never actually get there. You'll never actually you'll never be exactly like a native speaker, but think of fluency as being the path up there. Okay, and we're all on that path, and we're all at different points along that path. So even the person who's starting, even the person who is a brand new beginner, the very first step at the bottom of the mountain, is already on that path to fluency, is already on the fluency path. So instead of saying to somebody, are you fluent in German? Which, in my opinion, that question is a meaningless, stupid question. To say to somebody, are you fluent in? Are you a fluent speaker of? I hate that question. I really do, because it doesn't mean anything. It's totally incorrect. The correct question should be, what level of fluency are you at? Or how fluent are you? How fluent are you in German? What level of fluency are you at in German? What's your competency level in German? Because the reason why I say this is that fluency is interpreted by every single person as something different. It's totally open to interpretation. Somebody in my country who is a monoglot, who only speaks one language, would look at me as being fluent in a dozen languages. Somebody I talk to people in my country, and I tell them, they read the about page on my blog, and I think, whoa, man, this guy's just, wow, But then you talk to somebody who's a seasoned polyglot, and their definition, or their way of looking at somebody like me would be much stricter, would be much harsher, and probably you're fluent in a few languages, and then the rest of them you just sort of have some, you're not quite as fluent, or it's open to interpretation. To some people it means something. If I could order a cup of coffee in a restaurant here in Italy in Italian, to some people that's fluency. That's like, whoa, man, this guy's fluent in Italian. But to other people it's not. So totally open to interpretation. But I want you to think of it as a spectrum. Think of it as a pathway, and we're all at different places along that pathway. Now, there's also, the other thing I wanted to say was, when we talk about language learning, we're talking about different skills. We're talking about essentially 4 skills, speaking, listening, reading, writing. And people like to judge themselves, grade themselves along the CEFR scale. Most people have never actually taken a test before, but they'll say, I'm a B1 in Russian, I'm a C1 in Japanese, They've never taken a test. People say, have you taken the test? Well, no. But people sort of I think people sort of forget that languages are first and foremost spoken. Or they're signed. So they're signed or they're spoken. What we write on paper, what we read on paper, is just a representation of the sounds that we speak, the sounds that come out of our mouths. But when we talk about fluency, we sort of have to be a bit more specific too about which skill we're talking about. Because I've spoken to a lot of people who have said, who have basically graded themselves at an advanced level in a language because they've completed all the grammar books. They know the grammar really, really well. But if they went to the hairdressers to get a haircut, they probably couldn't do it. They probably couldn't even order a meal in a restaurant very well. So their listening skills are probably abysmally bad, even though they have an incredibly strong grasp of the grammar and they can read, they can read Tolstoy in Russian, in the original Russian, or they can read, they can read newspapers in Arabic. They can read political commentary in Arabic, but you listen to them speak and you think, holy shit! You think you're fluent? You think you're a fluent speaker? You can read all this amazing stuff, and that's really impressive. That's really cool. But if we're going to talk about fluency, you need to be very, very specific about which skill you're talking about. For example, I've spent the last few years learning several different languages that I can speak and understand, comprehend really, really well. But my writing, my literacy skills are terrible. Every day here in Italy, I talk to my friends on Viber in Russia. We call each other on Viber, we text each other, and speaking and listening, like we can talk. It's fine. I'm at a good level. But when I write to them, I tell you, like, probably every single message I write is just riddled with spelling mistakes. It's just riddled with spelling mistakes because I didn't learn the language to become strong in literacy skills. It just doesn't. I don't have time for it, and I don't have an interest in it. I just don't have that much of an interest in that side of things. Whereas in Arabic, my literacy skills are very, very good because I've worked in that. I've translated, and it's a very, very important language to me. So my speaking skills, listening skills, and literacy skills in Arabic are very, very strong. Whereas in other languages like Korean and Russian, I can speak and listen very, very well, but literacy skills are not so great at all. With fluency, we need to remember that it is a spectrum, and we need to be specific about what skills we're talking about. It's something that we need to get back to. When we talk about this, when we have these discussions, we need to remember this. It's not the top of the mountain. It's not like, I'm going to reach that fluency point. I want to be fluent in such and such a language in such and such a time. It doesn't work that way. It's not what it means. You're on the path to fluency the day you begin, the day you start. Something to remember. One other thing that I have actually said this before in another video, and I've written about it, is that you're never going to know every single word. You're never going to be able to have perfect, advanced level, technical discussions and use all the big words. Even at a high level in a language, you're always going to, even in your own language, even in your native tongue, you don't know all the words. You don't know everything. But when we talk about fluency, and I've said this before, I used this as my definition for fluency before, was that when you get to a point where you can, I'm a bit gassy, when you get to a point where you can learn more of the language using the language. So you no longer need to revert back to your original language, but you can use what you know, the little language that you know, to continue learning more using that language. So You know, I gave an example in the last video of describing the sun in Arabic. I made this video a long time ago. You can look for it if you want. And I talked about how, you know, you might not know the word for sun, but you know how to say, oh, you know, there's a yellow thing in the sky and it's hot, you know, and it's bright, and it's only during the day. And by the time you've sort of used these roundabout descriptions, the person you're talking to goes, oh, you mean the sun? Oh, the sun. And you go, yeah, the sun. So it's a way of you using all this other stuff that you know, these other words, these other descriptive words, to elicit. We use this word, elicit the language, elicit the new word, the new term or the new phrase or whatever from the native speaker. Because when you know, as you're describing it, the person's thinking, the person you're talking to is thinking, they're thinking, oh yeah, I know what he's talking about now. He's described it enough. I was just talking to a Russian friend actually, and I said I wanted to say the word economy. And it's actually easy in Russian. I didn't even know this. It's like economica, but I didn't know I didn't actually know the word, so I said something like деньги страны, like the money of the country. You know, and you know, you could say the same in Arabic, مال البلد or فلوس البلد, like the money of the country. And you know, in that context, if you're having a discussion about politics or economics, like the person might, oh yeah, I know what he's talking about. He's talking about the economy. He's talking about the financial situation of the country. They might understand, they might not, but this is one thing that I like to think of as it's a good way of measuring a person's competency, skill level, when they can be creative and they can use other ways of saying things to elicit something. You're not going to know all the words, but if you know how to pull it, if you know how to describe it, if you know how to elicit it from the other person, then it's a very good measure of your ability, of your skill level, of your fluency level. So that's my video for today. Sorry, I wanted to make lots of videos while I was here in the north of Italy. I'm relaxing, I've got lots of time. I'm working on my new Arabic project, which I can't wait to share with people. It's going to be so good. Put my heart and soul into it, a lot of work, and other people have put a lot of work into it as well. Very excited to tell you about that. But yeah, I just haven't been able to, because I'm using a prepaid SIM card for internet at the moment, for internet tethering, and it's just slow as hell. So even to upload this video is probably going to take me forever. Yeah, thanks for following my blog, guys. Thanks for continuing to follow. I've been running my blog now for a few years, and you know, I really appreciate the follows. I appreciate the subscribes and the shares and the support. It means a lot. So all the best.